Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Franchise Your Success with the one and only Dan Olsen. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing,
I
Marjorie?
am doing super duper.
You look like it. That's awesome.
Thank you. And one of the questions that we've been getting is the money aspect of a franchise, because I feel like that's the thing that pretty much everyone is asking about. How do we find the money for buying a franchise? So let's talk about first what are some of the types of franchises that we can invest on.
All right. So there's franchising has been considered or has been stated over the years that it's the most successful marketing strategy ever created. So franchising really as a whole, $2.3 trillion in sales, is considered to be a strategy. It's not an industry. And so the different types of franchises that you can acquire in the franchise area would be in a specific industry. So you could look at personal services. You could look at retail. You can look at financial services, food services, high-end restaurants, low-end restaurants, quick service restaurants, desserts, coffee, all kinds of different food types of franchises. And then ones I have like are more the health and wellness related type franchises. And then of course there's fitness, and then there's medical, and there's wellness, and there's spa type services. So there's really a big long list of those. And so those are things that you can kind of check out online and see what types of franchises interest you the most and kind of go to that area. I was talking to a guy the other day. He was looking at some different types of franchises. And so we talked about food and we talked about personal services, and nothing really hit for him in those areas. Nothing really felt good. And so I asked him a little bit more what he was doing. He said, I'm a hands-on person. I'm an old farm guy. I like to go out and fix the tractor, and I like to go do this, and I like to go do that. So I like to build things, and I like to, construct things. So that immediately took me more of a hands-on type franchise where you could have people producing products and as well, not as well as the services, but more products oriented. So he was creating some things. Or the other area would be more of a construction type franchise where they're constructing things and doing things for the home and building that. And that really hit home for him. He really liked the idea of maybe having something where he could help homeowners save money on their energy or things like that. Anyway, so that everybody's different, and it's just sometimes hard to pinpoint the right one, and sometimes you just have to wait to find that right one.
That's amazing. And I feel like with all of these types of franchises, it's really cool that you can actually find one that resonates better with you. There's so many kind of flavors of franchises that you can participate on. So that's amazing. Yeah. And I feel like as we have so many types of franchises, also the investment that you're going to have to do on them, it's going to be different as well.
It is.
So what's the total investment for a franchise?
Well, that's going to be a little bit longer answer, but an important one is, and this is what I start everyone when I do my coaching. I start everyone out and making sure that they understand this, and it's what I call the 4 levels of franchising.
Ooh.
And so first of all, let's talk about level 1. These are the 4 ways that you can actually acquire a franchise. They all fit into these 4 categories. Number 1 is what we call single unit franchising. That's when you would buy a franchise in a particular area. And that can be a non-brick and mortar where you're working it out of your home or small office. Usually you're providing a service to like a business. It might be business to business, might be coaching or consulting, or might be even maybe even let's say it's a painting franchise where you're running out of your home, but you're going out and doing bids on homes or businesses to bring your crews in to do the painting. But it's a low overhead business where you're running it out of a small office or home office. Then the other type is brick and mortar type franchises. And that's where you're opening up could be in an office, it could be in a retail area, it could be any number of types of brick and mortar type franchises. So that's just called a single unit franchise. And first of all, there's the franchise fee. And usually that will range between about maybe as low as 30,000 up to maybe 50, 60, maybe 70,000 for a single unit. Most of the ones that I've worked with in the past currently are right around that that 45, 47, maybe 50,000 range. So that franchise fee is once you become qualified to own that franchise, then you would sign the agreement and submit the franchise fee of, let's say it's 45,000. Then typically, if it's a brick and mortar, you've got a startup cost. You've got equipment that you may have to buy, furniture and fixtures, and you might have to have a little bit of inventory, and you might have to do some build out or tenant improvements to the location that you have. So depending on what you take over, in addition to say a $45,000 franchise fee, now you've got to start it up. And that usually will take another, could be 100,000. It could be another 150, 200,000 above and beyond the franchise fee. But fortunately, there's sources out there that can lend the funds to the franchisee. So if you had a total of $60,000, $65,000, $70,000 liquid, which takes care of the franchise fee, usually you can find a lender that will loan on the rest of it with fairly decent credit. You don't have to have perfect credit, but fairly decent credit where you can get the rest of it financed for you. And so you need about 25 to 30% down. Let's say it's $200,000 for total startup costs, including the franchise fee. And if it's 30% down, then that's 60,000. So you need that 60,000 up front, and then you can finance the rest. And it takes some time to get it open, but you're operating a single unit. And hopefully you get to the point where you can do it semi-absentee owned, where you're not buying a job, you have a manager running it for you, and that it's more of an investment. That's level number one. Level two is what we call multi-unit franchising. That's where you'd start with two or more. You want to start with two, maybe three franchises, and you pay the franchise fees up front because you want to secure areas, or you want to make sure you have first in line for the best locations. And you're committed, and you really want to get that franchise up and running as quickly as possible. So that helps your commitment level. But usually that first franchise is the single unit franchise fee is that 45,000 or whatever it is. The second one usually is at a reduced price because you don't have to go through the same training for that. So you might end up investing, say 45,000 plus another 35,000. So that's about 80,000 in franchise fees to secure those franchises. Then you put your next 20, 25,000 up front. The financing kicks in at that point. And then you open up your first one, and then you come back when you're ready to open up the second one. It's much easier to get the financing on the second one at a lower, or even, I guess I should say,
fee?
What's that?
At a reduced fee, I would say?
Yeah, it was a reduced fee, but it's also they'll loan you a bigger percentage on the second franchise, sometimes close to 100% once you've already paid your franchise fee, depending on your source. So that's multi-unit franchise, a little more investment. And the third level is what we call area development franchising. That's when you own like an entire city. A good example of that, having lived in Arizona for so many years, would be the city of Tucson, 1 million people. And let's say you had the rights to put in 6 locations over the next 5 years, but only you can go in there. No one else is going to come in and put locations. As long as you're meeting your production schedule, that allows you to own the whole territory and put the franchises in yourself. Now, it's usually a little bit bigger investment, and that's usually for the more skilled, more professional, more experienced franchisee that knows how to operate franchises and invest that kind of money into an area development. But the fourth level is my favorite area, and it's the one that I've owned almost 10 of them. I'm working on my number 11 and 12 master franchises now, and that's master franchising. That's the term I prefer to use. But the more official term, the legal term, is area representative franchising or regional development franchising. But I'll just use the term master franchising if that's to describe it. So master franchising, where you come in, you'd own the whole state. It might be the state of Colorado. Wow. Or it might be the city metropolitan area of Dallas-Fort Worth, or it might be state of Indiana, or whatever it is. You own the territory and you become a partner with the franchisor. So whatever revenue splits that you're granted in your franchise agreement, you get usually portions of the franchise fees. When those are open or secured or granted in your territory by you and or the franchisor, you also get usually a portion of the royalty stream. So that's where that residual income comes in, is enjoying that residual from your franchisees that are opened up and doing business. Thirdly is a revenue stream is wholesale distribution income. That's where you have products or services that are used in that franchise that you're getting a wholesale revenue piece on. And the fourth way, of course, is to open your own franchise. So you can operate it like a single unit, have a manager run it for you, and maybe not even have to spend as much time as normal in it because you're operating it at a reduced cost. So that's the fourth way. There's 4 levels. Now, master franchise, the investment level for that is usually around $150,000 and up. And a lot of people will finance that through their 401k plans and other things we can talk about. But you need about $150,000 to own the territory. But the cool thing about it is you don't have to necessarily open up the location immediately. You can wait for a little bit. But most of the master franchises that I know of are generating very good income, but they're also operating with low overhead. They can operate it out of their home or small office. So there's not a lot of extra funding that needs to take place in a master franchise. You're securing the territory, but you're with the goal that you're going to be opening locations through franchisees that you help bring on board. And so the returns on investment on the master franchise can be through the roof if you do it properly. And anyway, those are the 4 levels that you look at to enter into franchising and the different investment levels.
That's amazing. And I feel like if you take a look at this master franchise, it's $150,000, you said, minimum?
Yeah, it's usually a minimum of that.
And if you look at that, like looking at the house pricing right now, it's like $400,000 for just the house when you could possibly own a master franchise, a region where you can have as many franchises as you would like in there. That's amazing. And I feel like franchises is like the way to go for sure for investments. So since we're talking about money, what are some of the financial requirements that you would need for opening a franchise?
So for a single unit, what you need is maybe a lot of franchisors will require like $250,000, $250,000 net worth. And that's so that you can secure the financing portion of it, but you're going to need a little bit of liquid capital. Sometimes we've seen that loan from a friend or family member. If you're lacking the franchise fee, that can be loaned, and then you just use your credit, which it doesn't need to be perfect credit. It can be decent credit or even good credit, fair credit in some cases. And then they'll loan you the rest of the money. And you can start. I guess what I'm saying is franchising doesn't need to be out of the picture or option or decision of anybody, because if you can come up with 60, 65, 70,000 from a friend, relative, investor, or whoever you choose for that liquid portion up front, and sometimes even use their net worth, then the financing kicks in and you're in business. So that's one of the bigger ways that we see of people getting involved with a franchise. And then, of course, on the master franchise side, that needs to be a little bit more sophisticated investor and someone that we look for people who have had a little bit of business experience, because they're going to take their business experience and look at the system that's been provided by the franchisor, follow that system and create and build, use their personality, but build something very, very special by following that system. But because they have the business experience, they're able to use that to help support their franchisees because they're seasoned, they understand it. So we usually look for someone has a little bit more experience with it for a master franchise.
Gotcha. But they can still start with a single unit franchise if you really
unit.
Want to start into franchising.
Correct.
That's amazing.
And your example you brought up, I know you've done some real estate investment and been successful at that, Marjorie. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And I admire that, and that's awesome. So you're well on your way to creating some great things. But what we've seen happen, in fact, I see it happening right now, is you see people with all the increased home value, and you got all that equity sitting in your home. Is it good to let it just sit there? Maybe you want to be debt free, and maybe you want to get your home paid off, and that's admirable. But in the other hand, can you leverage that? Let's say you got $100,000 just sitting there, and you can go get a HELOC, the home equity line of credit. to use toward buying a franchise. So you go get that, and now you're leveraging that money to start a business. Your home value is still there, but now you're pulling that out and using it to leverage that and get the business started, increase it even more. So if your home value is increasing at as high as sometimes 15, 20% here in the Western United States, it's just gone super fast. But what happens when you get into a franchise that has an 80 to 90% success rate, and you have a chance to really get even a higher return, because you're building not only an asset, but you're building the cash flow on the equity that was just sitting there in your home. So
that's a really creative way of like coming up with the funds for investing into a franchise.
Right.
Because like most people, they think, oh no, I need to have all the cash in hand. Well, technically speaking, you have it. It's just hidden in your house and you didn't know.
Right.
So what are some other ways that you can also fund this investment? What are some other creative ways that you can think of?
Well, one of the most important ways is, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this, because people who have worked in the corporate world probably been instructed or have the opportunity to put money away into a 401k, IRA, or whatever it is, tax deferred savings. But the 401k was designed so that it could defer those taxes. And companies sometimes will match, or at least put 50 cents on the dollar in for all the money that you put in there. So what happens is you work for an employer for a while and you get that built up, and you got 50, 100, I see some people with $500,000 in there, but it's being invested into stocks and bonds and mutual funds or whatever they choose to invest it in. So basically your returns are going to be maybe what the market is. So if stocks are going down, then you're going to lose out. If it's going up, you're going to continue to grow, but not at a really strong pace. But you're relying on someone else to invest your money. It's your money for you. So is it best to have someone else invest that? Or do you believe you could pull that out and you invest it into your own business and you control the investment? So there's a little tool out there that we can recommend to pull out your money out of your 401k with no tax penalties. Because what you're doing is you're setting up your own C Corp, and you need to have this done professionally. It costs a little bit of money to do that, but it's very worthwhile if you're going to invest into a business. You might as well take some or maybe even all out of your 401k and plug it into your own business that you control and have a much higher rate of return on it. The other reason why you may want to do it is look what happened in 2008, 2009. In that range, the people lost, over a period of several weeks, they lost half the value in your 401k. So if they had 200,000 in there, all of a sudden it dropped under 100,000 just in a few weeks. And then it took them years to build that back up. So the question you want to ask yourself in your mind, is that going to happen again? Sooner or later, it probably will. So why not pull some of that money out now, invest in it into your own business, since it's your money and you control how that business is flowing, because you're running your business or franchise, in this case, in a semi-absentee owned fashion. And chances are, if you do it right, you're going to have a much higher return than what's been going on in that 401k. And then you're protecting yourself, because now you're in a business that's recession resistant, pandemic resistant. You got a chance to really build something special, and then get your first location up and running, maybe get your second and third and fourth, and you can leverage that. I've seen so many stories of that happening. People starting with that first one, and then that's working, and they get their second one and third one. And you know what? They don't need that job anymore. They have the choice. They have the freedom to be able to say, see you later, and go work in their own franchise. So that's a great position to be in, because you saved your money in a 401k and you leveraged that. And we already talked about the HELOC. Let inflation and let the home values be part of what you're doing, and leverage that and put that into your own business. It makes all the sense in the world, but you just want to find the right business, of course, to do that with.
Right. And you can actually control how fast your investment is actually going to grow, which is amazing.
But you're in control of it, Margie. But not only are you in control of it, and maybe you feel like, hey, maybe I can't control it the way I should. Well, guess what? With a franchise, you have people to support you. and to help you so that you can control it properly. And you have mentors, you have support systems, you have programs to follow, processes that work. And so that chances are you have a much better chance for success. And there's always someone you can go to get some help.
That's amazing. So if you wanted to invest into franchises, let's say that it's a college student, they don't have a 401k, they don't have, in this case, a home, let's say, can they still invest into some sort of franchising? How can they get into the game of franchising?
Well, we see it all the time. You know, I'm nothing against college. I was talking to a dentist just yesterday, and he was telling me that dental students and others now are coming out with $500,000 in debt for their college. And I never realized it was that much. But, you know, we need those services, obviously, and we're grateful for those people who put that time and education in to provide those services to us. But if there's a way to take some of that, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying take your educational funds to invest in a franchise, because that's meant for education. But sometimes we've seen people delay their education and actually get some funding and be able to jump into a franchise. And probably one of the best ways to do that, because a lot of parents are supporting the educational process, but instead of putting money out for education, nothing against education, I love education, but instead of putting out $100,000, $200,000 in education, what if you got a franchise and that was your education, and you learn from professionals who are in the business, real life business, that can help support you. So you just take those funds that were earmarked for that, put them into there. But someone with a college student, what I would also suggest is, until you're ready and feel comfortable, get all the education you can get. So study business, read the books, listen to audiobooks, attend seminars, whatever you need to do to get the proper real education on how to operate a business. And schools or universities are great, but most of them have not operated real businesses. You want someone who's operated a real business, get the education from them and attach to them and follow them and get education from them until you feel comfortable enough to maybe go out and start looking at the franchise for yourself. So education is the best investment you can make until you're ready to start putting some of your own money or someone else's money into a franchise investment.
That's amazing. There's always ways to invest in a franchise. You just have to be creative for that.
Right.
Thank you so much again. And we are so glad to have you as our coach and mentor for franchising. And we're going to see you guys on our next episode, in which we're going to talk about how to get a franchise while keeping your job.
Awesome. Thank you.